Everyone, it's Jeremy. Welcome back to the Slowest Blitz, where we are playing Asphodel. This is turn 11, and expansion slowing down this turn as we're kind of like finishing up all of the final little portions. But we do have one battle, and we get to watch two other battles. So our scouts pull in some work. Let's see how this goes. So we combine forces here. We're not expecting this to be especially difficult. We've got a bunch of Black Centaur here, and it's just undead. But whenever you see these little fuckers on the map, right, these soulless, you should watch out because they likely have some raptors with them as well, and can often have these Harib Seraphs, right, which do have death and sometimes come with death gems, so that can make things a little tricky. These guys in general, not especially difficult, but these guys popping on a lone commander can be a big problem. Which we didn't really do anything about, but we have multiple commanders, and they popped on our Sagittarian carcasses anyways. So, fortunately, our Sagittarian carcasses are sacred, and they have a very high defense bless. So this guy is taking an especially long time to actually die to these Seraph or these Raptors, which means everything else is already dead. So I think we only... so in the actual battle, they didn't even get the kill. But in that one, we only lost the one. So, very cool. Good on us. Let's watch... Who is this? This is Phaeacia in Belagor. Alright, so it looks like Phaeacia has recruited some heavy cav. That's interesting. And yeah, they should mop this up without any real problems. That's a lot of heavy cav. Unless... Well, he's got 2 leaders back here. So he should be more than fine. Maybe took a couple of losses. Heavy cav are notorious, right? For kind of like, you know, being difficult things to expand into. But the reason why they're notorious for being difficult things to expand into is because players really want to mitigate their losses as much as possible, right? Because the more losses you take in expansion, the more likely you are to not be able to win an early war or protect yourself or prosecute an early war, right? But just because they are kind of scary to expand into doesn't mean that they're super great to expand with, right? So in that particular instance, right, like if you were to expand into 13 heavy cav, you as a player oftentimes that would be a little bit like, oof, this is gonna be rough. Let's have some lance catchers out front, etc., etc. But in this particular case, because you're expanding with them rather than expanding into them, they don't really hold up very well, right? Base heavy cav they have okay protection, they have okay defense, and their lance charge hits really hard, sure, but after that, they just kind of get chopped up. If they don't immediately cause a rout, they'll just get swarmed by things like heavy infantries and slowly but surely get chopped up, right? Which is an interesting kind of like dynamic, right? Because players will be like, oh, heavy cav in the expansion point or in the expansion stage, but after that, they're not really especially useful. If you are a Scales nation and your troops aren't especially good, or you just have so much fucking money to go around, it's not bad to snag some heavy cav and use them for a particular purpose, especially later on in the game when you have like, I say later on in the game, mid-game, where you have like defensive buffs and things like that you can put on them. And you put them on like a hold and flank rear attack kind of like situation. But yeah, this is kind of like to be expected. Not an especially difficult province, but still incurs decent losses, honestly. But still an expansion for Phaeacia, which at this point I think Phaeacia is taking any expansions that they can get. So congratulations to them. We also get to see Nabaa once again. We've seen them before, right? Their Janguard kind of good. Their Adite elites hit very hard, right? But otherwise, nothing super great about them. They're just sub-giant infantry. But those Janguard are not going to get touched, basically. They're not especially Oh, I say, this one's getting touched because he's on the fucking corner. But, again, not going to matter to them. They lose 2 Adites, and that's it. 36 kills on those Janguard. Very cool. All right, so we had an unexpected event in Kasevik or Susevik or Kakevik. I don't know. Heavy snowfalls, lose some gold. That's a big bummer to us. We absolutely do not want to be losing gold. But we patrol in Lovendalen and Shade Forest to do the deal. Okay. Turn 11. Expansion is pretty much over for us. We need to be looking at what our immediate goals are and how we are going to move forward in the early game, right? The first thing we're going to do, obviously, is we're going to combine forces in Shadowglade to take this throne. We've been recruiting over the course of the last couple turns a bunch of centaurs in the periphery, in Lovendalen, Shade Forest, and in Monarch Woods, right? And we have a large amount of forces that we have accrued in Asphodel. Combining that with the group led by Homemade Sweets and Tall Thigh Boys, we will be bringing into Shadowglade a pretty massive force, right? So we've got nearly 50 Black Centaurs, a fair amount of regular Centaurs, about 10 or 12 Centaur Warriors in there. We've got close to 40 Centaur Archers, right? And then a pretty massive stack of mannequins. So that's going to be pretty nice. I do not expect to have any real difficulty here. Militia, heavy infantry, archers, light cavalries. We pinged this. We know that I think there are 3 mages in here with what was it? Glamour gems and something else. I don't remember off the top of my head. But it shouldn't matter that much. We have such a large force of mannequins that we'll take losses from them, sure, but it's not going to matter too terribly much to us. And our Black Centaurs should be able to just delete whatever it is we are going up against. So no big, interesting kind of like mechanics here. We've got Divine Blessing coming out. We don't have any magic at this point. Divine Blessing, we've got some quick roots coming out because we just have some casters in there because we need them to move around troops. And that's it. That's it. I have 0 concerns. We're gonna smash this. I do not expect big losses. Maybe like 50 mannequins or something like that. Maybe a centaur or 2 here or there. Other than that, should be great. Other things that we are doing. Obviously, we are now at the point to where we don't have to worry about expansion, and I am gearing up to fight, right? I want to fight. So, rather than go for Black Dryads, which pound for pound are better efficiency from a research standpoint to a gold standpoint, we have the gold right now, so we're going to dump it into Dryad Hags, because Dryad Hags are better combat mages for us now and into the mid-game. And of course, we're still pumping out Black Centaurs. Ignore the Black Minotaurs, they don't exist yet. They won't exist until like the mid-20s in this game, okay? Because the patch has not happened yet at this point in the game. So pumping out as many Black Centaurs as we can, supplemented with regular Centaur Warriors as well. We are not recruiting anything more in Lovendalen and Shade Forest. We are continuing to build a temple lab up here in Sylvania because we're going to want that to be one of our next fortification locations. Down in Monarch Woods, we are casting our first Grow Fortress. And while feeling fucking lucky, feeling lucky. Fucking Lucky is over here doing this, because remember, this guy is extremely lucky for us. A 100% random that we wanted, and a 10% random as well. So while he is casting Grow Fortress, not Carrion Fortress, because that does not exist until the mid-20s in this turn, or in this game. While he is doing that, we're putting Perus over in Imicton, and we're going to immediately build a lab, and then the next turn we're going to be over there casting Grow Fortress and building a temple, right? So Imicton's going to go up, Sylvania's going to go up, and depending on what we find in Shadowglade, we will probably immediately do that as well, okay? So that's a situation there. Aside from that, so this is really good for us, right? It's turn 11. We're about to have a fortress go up over the course of the next few turns. We're going to be able to get another fortress here, maybe another fortress here, and potentially another fortress here. At that point, though, we are absolutely starting to run into issues with our nature income. But at 9 a turn and Grow Fortress being 35 per, we can get there pretty quickly. So by the time we hit turn 20-ish, we should have at minimum 4 or 5 new fortresses, which is going to be really good for us to make sure that we, 1, have defended borders, 2, have locations that we can produce primarily mages out of, but also with forted temples to boost our dominion and get additional free spawn. Because we're already, as you can see, getting a lot of free spawn out of Asphodel. And the faster we get up these forted temple provinces, the better our dominion's going to be, the better our growth and magic scales are going to be, the better we're going to get free spawn out of that situation, okay? So that's kind of that situation. Starting to reanimate over here in Monarch Woods. So that's nice. We lucked out. You will occasionally free spawn Carrion Centaurs, which is super awesome. So we got another one of those, doing that. And that is mostly it for what we are actively doing. Continuing to run up Alteration. We'll have Alteration 2. Main goal, right, is Alt 4 to get Group Barkskin. Group Barkskin is going to allow us to put that on large, use like 2 or 3 hags to put that on large blocks of primarily Black Centaurs, but maybe Minotaurs, depending on what we need. And boost their base protection. If we check, their base protection is 9, but their natural protection is only 3. So when this boosts, this does actually boost them straight up to 13 protection, which still isn't great, but they do have Berserker, so with Berserker and high hit points, that 13 can suddenly become high teens, right? And make them have quite a bit more staying power, basically. Which is obviously very, very useful in fighting forces like Phaeacia. Because Phaeacia, right, doesn't have a lot of units at this point in time that are going to one-shot us, right? Orichalcum Guard are pretty scary if they have a big bless, but these guys don't have an especially big bless. So we're mostly going to face things like Colossi Light Infantry and Colossi Heavy Infantry. They do hit hard, but they don't hit hard enough necessarily to pop a Black Centaur in a single go. Obviously, they can have exploding dice, they can roll high, and they can get there, but it's unlikely to happen consistently, which means those Black Centaurs take damage, they go berserk, right? And then suddenly they're harder to finish off while hitting significantly harder as well, right? So that's a very important function. If you're fighting the wrong thing, that thing can kill you very quickly. So, for example, we'll just take a comparative look, right? So if we're taking a look at like the Knights of Avalon, right? Knights of Avalon have the Lance on the charge, which could kill us immediately. And immediately following that Lance, they have broadsword attacks, they have alicorn attacks, they have hoof attacks. So that's a lot of damage being piled in to rapidly burst down something like a Black Centaur, which we don't want to have happen, right? So basically, we're very likely to attack Phaeacia. There's the potential for fighting Man. There's the potential for fighting Ulm. There's the potential for fighting Bandar Log. Of the individuals that we probably would like to fight, Ulm is actually probably high on that list, truth be told. If for no other reason than the fact that Ulm has 3 fucking thrones in their immediate space. But we're already going to have a target on our back because we're Asphodel, right? We're a pop kill nation. People don't like pop kill nations. I will say, generally speaking, that my personal opinion is that if you have such distaste for pop kill nations, you should just, like underwater nations, you should just ban them from the game rather than targeting the shit out of people who play them. I'm just going to throw that out there. That is my personal opinion. If you have nations in the game that players are so against that they will just immediately target that nation, probably just ban those nations, right? But if you don't, I personally think that a lot of the pop kill nations are very interesting to play. And I know people complain about the concept of, you know, the land dying, but into the mid and late game anyways, 80 to 90% of players care more about gem, or factions, or nations rather, care more about the gem income that you have than the gold income that you have, right? Which is gonna be the exact same for Asphodel, right? Like, just because the land is dead does not mean that you're not gonna have all of the gem income from that land anyways, right? I get it. It makes it less effective to fight them, or less cost effective or rewarding to fight them. I get it. I understand. But if you hate them that much, just ban them, right? Anyways, I don't think attacking Ulm is going to be a good idea, even though I don't think Ulm expanded very well, because if I take 2 of these thrones, I think everyone around me is going to try to kill me immediately, right? Because it's between 1 and 4 thrones, and that's just going to paint a massive target on my already massive target. So, not going to do that. That leaves the concept of fighting Man, which I don't like, because those Knights of Avalon are especially strong. Later on in the game, when we have more tools, that's fine, right? Like, that doesn't bother me especially much. But the idea of fighting them early, when the tools are basically my chaff versus your chaff, my sacreds versus your sacreds, I don't like that matchup, right? Primarily because their sacreds beat our sacreds. At least their Knights of Avalon beat our Black Centaurs. So that will not be a good trade for us. Not impossible, mind you, but I don't think a good trade for us. So we're going to avoid that. And then there's Bandar Log. And Bandar Log could be a good fight for us, but the issue is we still actually haven't seen Bandar Log's Bless. And I know they're rolling around with Tiger Riders, and these guys can be very scary, to the point to where they're kind of like another version of the Knights of Avalon for us, right? So I would kind of rather avoid making plans against them if I don't actually know what I'm facing up against. And for a secondary scenario, I don't really want to fight Bandar Log because I don't want to be on top of the underground. right? We can see that there are other locations over here, and we can actually see Abysia is already up onto the overworld from that situation, which indicates to me that probably this is, well, I say probably, we've already scouted it last turn and this turn. This is Agartha. I do not want to fight Bandar Log only to have Agartha immediately fucking underneath me. That just doesn't sound like a fun time. So we have Ulm, which might actually be a good matchup for us, but because they're a good matchup for us because we can put them to sleep, right? Pretty easy, not easily, but they have a heavy encumbrance, so they'll kill the shit out of mannequins, but those mannequins will put them to sleep, and then we can kill them with other things, right? And they're not especially large, but they're, I think, a bad target because it will get us killed because other people will come at us because of the thrones, right? Don't like the matchup for Man at this point. Don't like the matchup for Bandar Log at this point, and don't like the idea of being above Agartha. So really, that gives us Phaeacia, which I think is honestly the better matchup out of the four anyways, right? Their troops are not especially threatening to us. They are dangerous, but they're not the most threatening on the face of the planet. And it seems as if Phaeacia has not expanded overly well and is doing maybe not a greedy build, but more of a scales-oriented build, which means they'll have power later, but we have power now. So that's not set in stone yet. I'm not immediately making that the definite answer, but we're going to hit Shadowglade. After we hit Shadowglade, we'll see what is happening from there. And then we're probably going to move down towards Phaeacia and attack them. If we take Phaeacia, right? And I'm not out here to be greedy or anything like that. I'll honestly probably toss Man or Ulm an invite and say, hey, I'm going to take this territory. You take this territory, right? That way, it's hopefully a quick war. We can come in, slam Phaeacia, hit them with a couple of big battles, win those big battles due largely to our superior bless and sacreds and a large amount of free spawn chaff, and then be done with it and be, a two-cap nation that just gets to probably sit for a little while, right? Because if we are allowed to sit for a little while with Magic 3, we're going to tech up really quick, right? Like, that's going to be the idea, right? We get teched up into Alt 5, we get Mother Oak going. We'll have to, when we get there, unless we get super duper lucky in the meantime with more Panic Apostates, we'll have to pop over to Construction 5 to get a Thistle Mace so that we can actually do Mother Oak, and then we can kind of like enact this plan of hits, high alteration, get Mother Oak up, get some construction, move into conjuration and enchantment, right? And really build off of that concept. Potentially throw out Gift of Health, right? Which will be very challenging to deal with if we're allowed to get Mother Oak and we're allowed to kind of like soup it up. And then go for late game conjuration, Tartarians, and start to try to like go out from there. Obviously, I don't think we'll not fight at all during that scenario, but in that time, we might see what's up with Ulm, what's up with Bandar Log. Other people might move, right? Like, what if there's a war between Jotunheim and Ulm, and we can come in on the backside of Ulm and take a little bit more territory, kind of like even out our borders. Jotunheim takes the other side, or Pyrene and Man duke it out, or Ulm and Man duke it out, or something like that, right? So we want to be watchful of what's going on, but that's the generalized game plan. Take this throne, probably move against Phaeacia, hopefully have a quick war with Phaeacia, and then move into a more peaceful period where we can tech up, and really kind of like aim at that concept of turning our territory into all forests, right? Terraforming, which technically doesn't actually work the way it's supposed to right now, but it will eventually. And then get to the point to where we hopefully can do things like Mother Oak, and then into the concept of higher alteration, higher enchantment, higher conjuration. So that's the plan. We'll see how it goes. Thanks for watching. Bye-bye, everybody. And bye-bye, Odie. Hey, everybody. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed the video, consider leaving a like, commenting, or subscribing. It really helps me out. If you'd like to see me live, head over to my Twitch at twitch.tv/thedistanthorizon.